Hello, it's me, Jess. Welcome to my channel. I'm here with another channeled message. This is a specific message. It might resonate with you, it might not. All right, so the first thing I'm getting when I tap into this energy is Radha Krishna. And I feel like we're dealing with that kind of dynamic here between two people. So there's a strong soulmate counterpart energy here, but also there is a distance and a separation, no communication, no contact. And I think in the past, there was a hard separation between the two of you. And I think I mean that in more ways than one, because the breakup itself here, or like whatever was done that caused the breakup, and I don't know how the breakup arose here, because I think for some of you, it's like somebody knew something and they didn't let on that they knew it, but whatever they saw to them was like breakup worthy. And it was like experiences like very cold, or I just heard Heartless by Kanye West. How could you be so heartless? And so like that person kind of took a decision in themselves to move away because of who, you know, what that person was doing. And then that person pulling back and essentially kind of gray rocking, you know, of protecting themselves and their energy and not giving of themselves emotionally anymore to the relationship, or definitely like in conversation, I think was seen as cold and harsh by the other person who had cheated. So that's one situation, but it also could be that there was like a discussion about breaking up or about the future, and the way that somebody here conducted themselves in that conversation was very cold or very harsh, and that was felt by another person, or there could have been a ghosting. I don't know, but it feels like the breakup or the separation or the way that that was instituted felt like harsh and very cold by at least one of you here. But I think it's more likely than not that this felt cold and harsh on both sides here, although maybe for different reasons or like from their different viewpoints, if that makes sense. I'm seeing a huge wall. It's like very thick and sturdy and metal and cold, but I'm seeing that being placed in from above. It is kind of like the hand of God card energy between these two. So there is a divine purpose for this. And I feel like that's kind of what we're focusing on in this particular message. But the other aspect of the hardness here is that this has been a hard separation for both of you, whether you realize it or not, whether you can see it or not, because the purpose of this separation is to get both of you in contact with this Five of Pentacles energy. And that's, you know, it can be a lacking kind of energy, like what was lacking, you know, within yourself, or maybe to encourage both of you to pursue new opportunities, to have new experiences, or to learn new things. And I think learning new things could be like actually skills, you know, especially if there's like maybe a money lack here, you know, so there could be like actual career skills, but this also could be new like social skills, because I do think that one person here struggles with communication, like some kind of Gemini energy. And I think that's the masculine for most of you. And we'll kind of dial in on that because I kind of feel that that's a bit like the source, you know, of a lot of like the fog machine that's going on here. But I feel he maybe has trouble with conversation, initiating a conversation in like a loving way, a reciprocal way. So he gets like all up in his head. And I think that's where the cheating thing kind of came in, because he almost wanted, in lieu of having a conversation and learning how to do that in a skillful way, he introduced like a third party, like a competitor, wanted a push-pull dynamic, and that probably made his partner, his counterpart here, feel lacking. But I feel like it was intended to, and it was kind of throwing the hot potato back at her and trying to put the ball back in her court. And I think she struggles with walking away, actually, and like disengaging and having like healthy detachment and really choosing to turn her back. And so that's where her opportunities open up of, well, what if I did kind of let go of this, you know, energy? Like, how does that kind of change the dynamic? Now, the other thing that I want to mention is I really feel for most of you, this is a third party situation. I think a third party was involved, and they are the wall here. This third party, also is experiencing this Five of Pentacles energy. And I just wanted to point that out. It's actually where I want to start here with this energy, because everybody involved in this situation, when the wall was instituted, even though for the third party, that might have felt like what they wanted, like that they got what they wanted, and maybe they did in the short term, but they're not in the long term, because everybody involved in this situation is being kind of flung back from this wall in order to confront this like Five of Pentacles energy. So you're not going to dish it here. And also not receive it. Again, everybody's kind of like looking at their lack. Now, starting with this third party, I do feel like this third party recognized this counterpart energy between these two people and was like very jealous. There could have even been a conversation between this third party, and I want to say the masculine, although take the gender thing or leave it. If it's on the feminine side, then, take it there. But I really think for most of you, it's whoever struggles with the conversation piece, the communication piece. And I think they may have had a conversation with this, like, I'm going to say masculine energy and felt rejected, but they don't deal with rejection well, because I do think this third party is like very stubborn and kind of self-absorbed, and they want to win, and they want like a position, and they want something like that. And so they have this strong infatuation, but there's denial energy around that. I think they were, they could have outwardly denied that they had an infatuation with somebody. Again, so there could have been like a friends with benefits thing. And so they could have been saying, that there wasn't any feelings there, but they had this like strong infatuation. I also think behind the scenes, and we all kind of know about this, right? You're on a tarot reading. So I think they're denying that it's infatuation, in the sense that they might be saying they're justifying their entitlement to interfere in this connection. And they're saying that their lust is something godly, that it's permission by God to take some kind of destructive or interfering action here, when it's lust and it's infatuation. I also think internally with this third party, there's a denial about an obsession that they have with like coming out on top, is what it feels like. It feels like with control, with power, with being seen in a certain way. But they have an obsession here. And weirdly, I think it's with this other feminine. I think maybe they have an obsession with just other feminine energies just in general. It might not necessarily be one feminine, but it's like just rivaling with feminines. That's their like obsession, because they want to feel attractive, but they're also denying their attraction to this masculine. Like it's possibly even like an obsession. There's an obsession here. They have an obsession that they are denying, and that really is this third party energy. I also feel like there's a schmegel energy coming off of this third party, and I think it would be very easy just on the face of things to say this person's like oversexed, or they're more schmegel than the counterpart, or than either of these people. I don't actually think that's true. I think this person may be actually less schmegel than both of these two. I think schmegs is just a tool. It's just a tool for separation. And so if they can pull this masculine away by using that, then that's what they'll use. But I think into the long term, they'll, because they're just so selfish. So it's like once they kind of get what they want and they feed off of the win, which is actually feeding off of the pain and the destruction and the sadism that was caused in this situation, then I think that they would kind of move on. But I think that's where the lack comes in, because I think part of what this third party has to face is they feel left out in the cold. It could be that they succeeded in causing a breakup here, or some kind of coldness or like detachment or distance between these two people that they wanted to get on this connection. But then they themselves were rejected. They themselves were like overtly left out in the cold. And this third party doesn't handle that well, like in conversation, some kind of rejection that lines up with this masculine who struggles in conversation, and struggles with air stuff, like Gemini stuff. So struggles because it feels like he's having some kind of circular conversation with this third party. And it's circular because this third party lies and misrepresents themselves. They're denying being obsessed with, I think, this other feminine. And that really, hey, I'm only attracted to you because I'd really like to fuck her shit up. Thank you for letting me. I love your weakness. It's like that kind of energy. She's obviously not going to say that. It's jealousy, it's envy, it's possessiveness. It is that kind of abuser mentality, the entitlement, the justification. But she feels entitled to be two-faced and to kind of like withhold this because, again, I think she uses this attraction and she doesn't understand where that comes from because she refuses to admit it comes from some kind of lack energy within themselves. So they're forced to confront that. Again, they could have outright been rejected. It could also have been that they got what they wanted. Like they separated these two out, and then there doesn't feel like a natural connection here to me. So if this turned into a relationship between them and this masculine, I think it's just a reflection of his weakness and his inability to have a conversation with his soulmate. And he wants to save face and be, maybe, and keep in the drama of it, or make it seem like something it wasn't, because otherwise he'd have to face his lack, right? Which is, I couldn't have a conversation with my partner. And so now I'm stuck in this situation I don't want to be in. So he looks like the loser. So he might ride this out at least for a couple of months or something, just to make it seem like it was authentic or genuine here. So even if that third party though gets some kind of situation like that, where it's like, I got the relationship or whatever, there's still a lack energy here, because it's like she can't replace whoever she was trying to replace. And that is in some way, like, I just heard thrown in her face, or it's in some way like just ever present, like in that relationship of, even though it's kind of that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. She could be trying to mimic this feminine, liking all the things that she likes, trying to style herself after her, trying to have her like personality, trying to like replace her kind of beat for beat in this connection, but she's not her. And I think that's felt. It definitely will be in the long term that this masculine, because it all comes back for this masculine here, not being able to have a conversation. I think more and more that's going to become obvious that that's why he was with her. It's his own lack and his own weakness. So even if this masculine has something like money, wealth, power, prestige that this third party was drawn into, because that's the other thing. It might not even be that this third party's obsession is with one of these people or the other. It could be an obsession with like the wealth or the status or something that this masculine has. It could be a family name or something. And this masculine, I think, is friends with this person, and like in some kind of regular conversation, or they see each other around town. And so it's like this person, I think, might not be used to having that a close quartered, having contact with somebody of a certain like group, of a certain status or something. And that's what they're infatuated with and like obsessed with, if that makes sense. But if they are looking at this masculine's like strength, I think eventually they're going to have to confront that, well, really this masculine is just with them because they couldn't have a conversation with their partner, they couldn't have the conversation. So for some, it was like the commitment conversation, or they couldn't have like an important conversation. So now let's move over to this masculine and like his version of lack, because he's really, really up in his head. Because I'm seeing the Gemini energy, which, Gemini is, it's the twins, but in Vedic astrology, Gemini is more like man and a woman. Like the twins are man and a woman, and Gemini's esoteric ruler is Venus. It is like a very love-based sign, and it is also like a very sociable sign. So he gets in his head about like friendships and stuff, but I think it's because he can't have the conversations, the hard conversations. He might be a very fun or like sociable energy, or he could even be very quiet, but he doesn't have like the conversations that he needs in order to get the answers, the direct, straightforward answers that he needs. But I feel like he would have to have a backbone and feel like, he can face rejection or something. Because if he got that answer, then he wouldn't be up in his head, kind of going round and around. I think he also might distract himself with choice, like, oh, well, I have a choice here. And he likes to distract himself there because it feels better and it's easier than he really needs to have a conversation. He knows who he wants here. I don't think he is actually, this is funny because this has just started to come through recently. I don't think he really wants a choice here. I think he actually wants like a deep love. Gemini energy is actually like that. When you have like Venus there or something, like it wants that like kind of deeper love. And that's not really the reputation that Gemini has, but I'm talking about the Vedic system. It's more of a Venus kind of sign. So instead he gets up and up in his head, but he potentially goes around and around with friends, or he talks out certain things with friends instead of just talking to the person that he should be talking about his vulnerabilities or something. And instead just kind of like gets sucked in. But I feel like there's something out of whack and out of balance with the fact that he's in communication here with this third party, because this third party is like bullish and they're pushing for something. That's the only difference here. And their envy and their jealousy makes them a strong force. Nothing else does. It's not their energy. It's not their connection. They're trying to undermine it. So they're pushing force onto the situation where the actual soulmate is just trying to find their way through life, and this masculine is just trying to find his way through life. So it says something here that he's drawn to the soulmate who's not trying to manipulate him and not trying to pull or push on his energy either way. They're just showing up. And this third party has to push a lot, like in order to like be involved, at all. But then this masculine is like, I don't know, like seeing kind of both sides. So I feel like, yeah, that's his lack. But and he plays games instead of like having a communication. And that, though, for him, I feel like is not for him, but in this situation, to me, it's the source of the fog machine. Like just close it up and have like some kind of direct conversation with your counterpart here, because there's an answer that you want, or there's something that you need to say. And if you just say it in a way that needs to get said, you have the answer that you need and your decision is made. Because I really feel like if that's the case, then the decision really is made. And this third party doesn't. So I feel like, again, this third party is trying to maybe undermine the communication here between these two, because that gives them power, and they have that abusive mindset where they just feel entitled to do that because they use their lust. They confuse their lust with God and use that to just justify any bullshit thing that they want to put in between two people. Now, this the counterpart, the female counterpart here, I think is very good with like communication, but feels like yanked around and around by this masculine, because when this masculine speaks to her something, I feel like he doesn't directly say what he needs to, and he feels like lacking or insecure like next to her energy. And I think that if there's a third party involved, or if she's confused about where she stands with him, I think she is working on getting better about just choosing herself and moving on and moving forward. I think she might be overly good at conversation, where she might feel like, well, there's nothing that we can't talk through. But if you don't have a partner that also feels that way, and it's not just the intention to talk things out, it's having the skill set too. If you don't have somebody with that, then you're kind of just left spinning your wheels. And that's kind of what I'm getting. I'm seeing one of those like roundabouts at a children's playground. It looks kind of like a carousel, but it's obviously not that big, and it doesn't have horses on it. It has like the handles, and the kids all run around it and then jump on. And you know, like the parents a lot of times will stand outside and they'll grab a hold of it and push it along. It's like this person's the only one pushing, and they're waiting for this other person to kind of push on their side too, but they're not. So it's like this person's left doing all the work, and they're also confused about their worth and why this other person is in the picture, which is kind of by design, I feel like, because this masculine is trying to kind of push up this smoke screen. So I feel like this wall, again, put everybody in touch with their Five of Pentacles energy. And between these two counterparts, because this is soulmate energy here, especially if these two are in a relationship, then I think, or if they have been a lot in past lives even, you know, it's like they could rely on each other a lot, almost in a codependent way, where they have kind of everything between the two of them, but it doesn't give each of them as a soul the opportunity to get better at other things and to really tell what energy is kind of coming from them, and the opportunity to really like work on that. And so I feel like this wall is giving everybody here the opportunity to pursue like new skills. And that with this Five of Pentacles energy, that could be money problems. Like somebody here could be having money problems. Maybe there was a divorce here, and like maybe both these people are now struggling more financially than they would have, you know, being together. So it could be learning like a career skill, a job skill, updating their skills, getting in a degree program, something like that. But it's bolstering that person, and in confronting head on where we are lacking in ourselves, instead of trying to make a situation work that's not. It builds our confidence. And I feel like that's part of what's going on in this Radha Krishna dynamic, is each person is getting stronger, and it is kind of purifying the karmas, not necessarily the couple karmas, although I think that's here too, but also like the individual karmas. And so it's purifying this connection in the sense that it's becoming less about need, and it is becoming more about partnership. And I think the feminine counterpart here needed to be able to detach, actually, in order for this to be like a healthy partnership, and just kind of like go and explore on her own, because I think her partner here was very stubborn, and it's very much like my way or the highway, and I don't care if this hurts you. And it's just trying to kind of, but also her pride could have been wounded in this situation. And I think she had to learn how to like caretake her pride. Yeah. And so and it's the same. Okay. So, well, let me just finish this Five of Pentacles kind of thing. It might not just be career skills. This also could be social skills. Cause like I think this masculine, it's social skills, it's relationship skills, it's having communication skills. This karmic tries to undermine that communication. So if he partners with this karmic into the long term, he's just screwing himself over, because this to me looks like it would just be highly distracting, kind of an energy. And I also think there could be torture here as well, because like I said, I think this karmic is in some way confronted with their own Five of Pentacles. Like, well, I'm not the soulmate. I can't replace this person. I see this person in some way, shape, or form struggling without their old partner, and I can't actually pick up the slack in the way that the other partner could. And that is actually being felt. But also, I think they know that their partner's hurting because of this, if they are partners, because I think for a lot of them, they're not, you know, but also they didn't get something that they wanted, you know, maybe they didn't get the partnership. So they're still not chosen, you know? So that's all definitely going on. But getting back to the Radha Krishna thing that was coming through. So Radha is the female counterpart to Krishna, who is like the godhead in the Hindu religion. And they are separated because Krishna is spirit and is like ephemeral, and Radha is the embodiment of like the 3D physical world. And so there is that kind of like split or that separation, and it's very painful, especially for Radha, and she just cries and cries for Krishna. And Krishna has said, the second that you say the word, then I'm just going to snap my fingers, all of creation will be over and we will be reunited again. But Radha says that she doesn't want him to do that because she loves him more, but she understands him more in his absence. And I feel like that is what's going on here between these two soulmates. There is something here where they're learning about not just themselves, but also the other person and who the other person is and what they bring to the table. They're learning about that by their absence. And I think that's also to do with this third party, because this third party seems like they're like fixated or they're obsessed. They're like a clinger, stage 5 clinger, in some way to this connection, or like their fixation here to something. But that this separation and the being able to understand the other person's energy more because of what's missing in yourself or in your life or in your space, I think that could go both ways, like positively and negatively. And I think that's something to kind of clock here is, with this person gone, like what's missing in your life? Like it feels like maybe there's a big hole in your life that no matter what you do, you can't quite fill that space. And like, what is that? It could be, especially like if you're dealing with a guy who's always involving third parties in your relationship, it might be all of a sudden when he's not there, there's more peace, and you're less stressed and you like yourself a lot more and you don't have crippling self-doubt and you don't compare yourself. It could be that your female friendships thrive because it could be that having this guy around really knocked your female friendships and your ability to connect with women that you love, and you didn't realize how isolated and lonely that life was until you got away from a person who abuses you in that way. Yeah, it could be that maybe, the chores around the house stay done because somebody was always contributing to the mess but not picking it up, but it also could be the good things too, where, you notice that there's a lot less joy or a lot less laughter in your life, or chemistry or communication, connection, somebody that enjoys a certain hobby or something. So it's just worth noting here, like if there seems like there's some kind of energy that you can't quite connect with, if that's like helping you, even if you have like, I'm not necessarily saying that your life has been sad or anything, even if you have been in happy situations, not necessarily romantic situations either, but just even if you have, just kind of notice what that is. And I do feel like it is building a kind of appreciation, but it's showing you both where you can improve. And I think maybe acknowledging like the other person's point, the other person's side of things. Yeah. But it feels like this lack energy has to be confronted. And I just heard the word projection. There's a lot of denial here that's been kind of floating around, because this third party was definitely like in a lot of denial. I feel like this masculine is in a lot of denial too. Like believes her denial, but is also in denial about the wrongness of that. He might feel entitled and justifying his actions over here as well. It could have been that he was confronted about or when he's confronted about his lies and who he really is, that he denies it. And I think maybe this female counterpart, maybe she was in denial and saying like, well, he's not doing that on purpose, or he would never do that to hurt me, but he is, because he's trying to control you. He's trying to knock your worth or your value. He's trying to maybe induce a 5 of Pentacles energy. But that's what I feel like this wall that I'm seeing that's made entirely of metal. I can tell that the metal is supposed to be shiny, but it's like all dingy and like dusty here because everybody's on their own side of the wall. It does come with feelings of like isolation. Yeah, something about this where everybody in some way is confronting isolation. Even if I think it would be more likely on this masculine side if he doesn't want to be alone, and so because I think his coping mechanisms are like being in a crowd but not saying anything meaningful, like not talking about the thing that he needs to talk about. So it's like just highly distracting energy. He still feels alone, in some way he's still having to confront that like in his heart. But it feels like having the courage to look at this wall that's actually a mirror, or it's meant to be, and kind of then starting to clean off that mirror and starting to pull all the vines and the brush that have kind of grown over that mirror, because it feels like everybody here is afraid to look in the mirror. They're afraid to look at themselves in this situation. So it could be that in trying to process this, everybody in this situation is looking at the other people. trying to understand who are you in the situation, and then I'll try to navigate accordingly instead of looking at themselves, because looking at themselves brings up this sense of lack. For this third party, I think there was a rejection in conversation that they did not want to accept, or they were afraid of that. So I don't know. They don't want to look at that they're lacking. But this third party also doesn't know love. They don't understand about love, because just because two people have a soulmate connection doesn't mean that you don't have a soulmate connection out there somewhere. Like, you don't have to be lacking. You only seem lacking when you look in the mirror of these two people are meant for each other, and I'm witnessing that. It should inspire me, or it could inspire me, to have, find, or build, or invest in my own. But instead, I feel jealous, and I'm trying to destroy that and try to get in on something. But their alchemy between the two of them, there'll always be some aspect of that it's just for them. Like, it can't be replicated, even if you could manage to get with one of these people, because what you're seeing is an alchemy that can't really be replicated. That's the feeling of lack that this third party has to kind of confront. With this masculine, I think that he needs to have a conversation. He might feel intimidated by his counterpart, like that she's too good for him. Or maybe he needs to have a conversation with her about a friend or something, because he does this. He's the one that does this. And don't it always seem to go that the ones who are cheating they're always the ones accusing you of cheating. They're always the ones that look out and see you having a conversation with your friend and can't possibly imagine that it was platonic, or possibly both platonic or intimate. Or maybe this masculine does see that there is something weird going on with a friend, but this feminine needs to be illuminated about that, and he needs to have a conversation with her. But instead, he's just in his mind projecting his bullshit behavior all over her so that he doesn't have to confront his own lack within himself. And I think it could be that he doesn't feel good enough for her, that maybe he doesn't make enough money, or that he doesn't bring enough to the table, or that she prefers somebody else over him, and he feels triangulated even though she has not triangulated him, kind of a thing. And then for this soulmate energy, she has to, I think, confront that perhaps someone that she loves dearly is intentionally wounding her with a third party to try and knock her value and to bring her under some kind of control. And she has to be able to walk away from that, to defend herself from that, and not to be triangulated, and to recognize these negative, abusive relationship patterns, and to understand that that is not love. It's not that there's not love between her and her soulmate, but if there's a third party involved, he's not acting on that love. He's acting on hatred and envy and jealousy, and he's injecting that into your relationship. And I think also, hers is sometimes words fail. And when words fail, actions need to come into play. And like, her action, I think, is that she has to turn her back. She has to move away, because somebody here, it's like, they're actually very controlling or very arrogant. But she might have her own reasons. But I think being triangulated, she thought that she was being triangulated because she wasn't enough. And that's what it was intended to do. So everybody has their own scary thing that they have to look at in the mirror and kind of confront. For the counterpart feminine here, I think that she's going to realize, I'm not lacking. Somebody who would put me in this situation is lacking. That's for them to own. Where I am lacking is I didn't stand up for myself. She probably has a lot of regrets of not standing up for herself and not moving away sooner, before something got out of control. Maybe not trusting her gut about this third party, because again, there seems like a lot of denial energy, and she seems like lovely, very friendly, wanting to believe that everybody's got the same pure heart that she does, and had to confront in these two people that not everybody does, and she probably thought, dang, I think there's probably warning signs early on. And it's warning signs that this masculine at the very, remove the third party, because there'll always be another third party with him, I just feel. But there's nothing special about her. That's something that this third party, I think, has to confront. But it's just that he doesn't have healthy relationship skills. He doesn't get vulnerable and soft and reflective and self-aware. He doesn't have self-discipline. And so he feels lacking. He doesn't build his self-esteem. And then it kind of plays out this way. Yeah. I think he'll have regrets about involving with a third party and not developing his relationship skills. And maybe it'll put him on track to developing his relationship skills. And I think he'll have to confront the fact that he felt lacking next to this counterpart feminine. What a gift. The divine sees these two as counterparts, as being equal to each other, but different. And he didn't see himself that way. And so he has to confront that and actually deal with that, and actually process his feelings around that, and maybe address some skill sets that need to be updated. And this third party, I think, needs to confront their own denial about their attraction and this like obsessive energy, and that I think they are really morally lacking. But again, they try and make devil energy godly energy. They try to crown their lust like Christ, and try to say like that this is some like higher calling from the universe or something, when really I think this person's quite morally lacking, and they need to update their morals, update their principles. I think there's an abusive mindset here, an entitlement, a justification, a feeling of like possessiveness that needs to get addressed here. That's ultimately, and she may share that with this masculine. They both might have some level of an abusive mindset, but it's not compatible with love. And I think she needs to go build a love somewhere, like learn how to do that, and also like learn how to accept rejection, because there's a stubbornness and a belligerence and like a self-obsession with this third party. So yeah, I think that's what I have. But going back to the Radha Krishna thing with these two counterparts, it does feel like they're learning about each other in the absence here, and they're learning about themselves in the absence here, and confronting lack, and also pursuing new opportunities to learn new skills, possibly with people that are karmics, like maybe even getting involved with karmics, like just for practice, like in terms of, well, how do I navigate? Well, I've got to go on some dates, and you're not going to hit a home run the first time, So maybe you have to have conversations, like the hard conversations, or maybe you have to practice turning your back, where you're like, no, this doesn't work for me. And you have to leave those kind of negative situations. All of that is strengthening something here. I even think the Radha Krishna thing might apply to this third party, like this karmic energy, because this third party may have some kind of attachment to the female soulmate as well. I think she's a really good person. So, if she didn't break these two up, then she would have had, I think, two friends. What a net positive, because her and this masculine are far from counterparts. They're karmics to each other, and they need to correct their involvement, which is something that I said in another reading. So she could be, dealing with the fact that this female counterpart energy won't talk to her, has turned their back on her as well, and needed to, because she's not a safe person. But it also could be, again, this masculine feeling in that Five of Pentacles. He didn't have as much money as she thought. He is morally lacking. Maybe he goes off and cheats on her. He is feeling heartbroken that his female counterpart moved away, and he's feeling cold, or he's feeling like lacking in some way, like not himself, or I don't know. It just feels like all of that's kind of going on here. So anyways, that's what I have for you. If that resonates, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Bye.